My name is Wen Shangguan. In my previous life, I loved a man for 25 years. That man was Luan, my little uncle, my childhood friend, the youngest son most protected by Grandpa Luan, and the only love I ever had. Since I was 6, I knew what it meant to care for someone. I never thought life could shatter so quietly. A person believes they have time, believes they have choices, believes that love hurts but doesn't kill. But I learned too late that it can kill, that a broken heart can also stop the body. And it all began that night, a night I can still feel in my bones. I was in the hospital with a body weaker than my own voice and a soul in shreds. Lewin, my little uncle, the love of my 17 years, the man for whom I wasted an entire life, he was by my side, but he didn't look at me with love, not even with sadness. He looked at me with a heaviness in his eyes, as if carrying me was a responsibility, not a desire. I already knew I had lost him. I knew it long before I died. I knew it when I saw the picture of the boy, his son, the child he had with her, with the woman who was always by his side, while I insisted on chasing a dream that never belonged to me. But that night they told me without filters, she has one last chance, but it won't last long. And then I heard something worse. I heard her voice, the woman he truly loved. What a pity, but I won't let her survive. I remember the cold, not from the hospital, but from the truth. I died nameless, without love, without dignity, inside the heart of the man I chased all my life, and I thought that would be my end. But when I opened my eyes, I came back. I came back to 1983, one day before the university entrance exam, one day before making the decision that doomed my entire past life. I heard my teacher's voice like an echo from another life. Wen Shawan, are you sure you won't take the Qingbei exam? Qingbei, the university he went to, the university I chased like a shadow, the university where I loved him, where I lost him, where I destroyed myself. In my previous life, I thought following in his footsteps was love. Today, I understand it was obsession. In that life, I followed him, and he never looked back. That morning after being reborn, I didn't hesitate. Teacher, I give up Qingbei. I want to enroll in the National Defense University. She opened her eyes in surprise. I was surprised too because, for the first time, I felt strength in my words, strength to choose myself. In my previous life, I sacrificed my dreams for him. This time, I would sacrifice everything that tied me to him. The reunion with my little uncle before he could destroy me without meaning to. When I returned home, I saw Lu Yitang, the same young, serious, elegant face, but now I could see him with distance. He hadn't changed. I was the one who had changed. Little uncle? I greeted him with a new calm. Study well. Don't waste time. His words were the same as in my previous life. Cold, correct, distant. And I, who used to melt with a gesture of his, now only felt a bitter pang, because I knew that in the future he would care for another woman, cry for another woman, give his life for another woman, and that I would only be a shadow in his story. But that was before being reborn. Now I had power. Now I had a choice, and I decided to walk away. The decision that changes my destiny. When I filled out the new university application form, I felt something I had never felt in my past life. Freedom. Freedom from being the girl who cries for a man. Freedom from being the woman who forces him to stay. freedom from being the shadow of a one-sided love. I decided to study far from him. I decided that this time my future would not depend on his gaze. And as I signed that form, I made a promise to myself. I will never again love a man who never chose me. This time, W. Shawan will live for herself. The day of the exam, the first great turning point in my new life, fate wanted to test me. On the way to the exam, I forgot my ID. He was supposed to take me to the test center, but at the last minute he chose someone else. Her. Again, that woman, the same one who in my past life became his wife, his partner, his true love, left me to go with her. And there, watching him leave, I understood with painful clarity. No matter how many lives I live, he will always choose someone else. I walked alone to the exam with a tight heart but a steady stride. And when I handed in the sheet, when I marked each answer with the strength of my hands, I felt like I was breaking my destiny. This time, my story didn't begin with him, it began with me. The day my feelings became a crime, it was Lu Yin Chen's service anniversary. At home, they had prepared a small celebration. Flowers, tea, some unit colleagues, smiling faces, and me. I, who in my past life would have seen that day as a chance to get closer to him, but now I just wanted to go unnoticed. I had prepared something very simple, an old metal box in which I had kept my letters, those drafts that should never have seen the light of day. Letters where, with the teenage heart of years ago, I confessed everything I felt. In my new life, I had decided to keep them only to remind myself how foolish I had been. I planned to throw them away. I really did, but I didn't have time. While everyone chatted, one of his colleagues lifted the box, opened it, and pulled out the envelopes as if they were evidence of a crime. "Boss, what is all this?" "Love letters. Can't you see?" The laughter began like knives. So many years of discipline, and it turns out someone is writing romance novels to the boss. And just now, when we all want to clean up his reputation, you ruin it with this? I felt the blood leave my face. Those letters were mine, my old foolishness, my illusions from another life, my most intimate words. I had kept them, hidden them. Who took them out? How did they end up in the middle of the living room in front of everyone? I wanted to speak, explain, say something, but my voice wouldn't come out. I didn't put them there. I had kept them. I stammered. No one believed me. Then she spoke, Shin Shin King, the woman who in my other life ended up as his wife, the ideal daughter-in-law, the perfect partner. This time, she was there too, beautiful, gentle, sweet, until she opened her mouth. While everyone chatted, one of his colleagues lifted the box, opened it, and pulled out the envelopes as if they were evidence of a crime. "Boss, what is all this?" "Love letters? Can't you see?" The laughter began like knives. So many years of discipline, and it turns out someone is writing romance novels to the boss? And just now, when we all want to clean up his reputation, you ruin it with this? I felt the blood leave my face. Those letters were mine, my old foolishness, my illusions from another life, my most intimate words. I had kept them, hidden them. Who took them out? How did they end up in the middle of the living room in front of everyone? I wanted to speak, explain, say something, but my voice wouldn't come out. I didn't put them there. I had kept them. I stammered. No one believed me. Then she spoke, Shen Shen King, the woman who in my other life ended up as his wife, the ideal daughter-in-law, the perfect partner. This time she was there too, beautiful, gentle, sweet, until she opened her mouth.
"Xian, I'm sorry. I just came to sit here for a while," she said with a trembling voice. "I saw the little box and thought it was a gift you had prepared for your little uncle for his anniversary. I opened it out of curiosity. I didn't know what it was." She feigned surprise, feigned guilt, and feigned innocence. I looked at her, and at that moment, I understood everything. She was the one who had told me earlier, "Go change your clothes, rest a bit." And she took advantage of that moment to take out the box, put it in a visible place, and create the perfect scene. Me, the orphaned niece, appearing like a crazy person in love, tarnishing the reputation of the respected regiment chief. Grandpa spoke too. "She won. Apologize. You're young. Everyone will understand." And for a second, I was about to do it, to repeat what I did in my past life, bow my head, apologize, cry in silence, keep living under their roof as a grateful burden. But not this time. I had already died once for love. I lifted my head. I felt the tears burning, but I didn't let them fall. I'm not going to apologize.
Everyone fell silent. I didn't do anything wrong. I wrote those letters myself. Yes, years ago, when I was still a foolish girl who believed that by wishing hard enough, I could get what I wanted. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't disrespect anyone. I didn't invent rumors. I didn't slander him. I just wrote what I felt. I looked at Louis Shin. Yes, I loved you. I loved you in an unrealistic, childish, even selfish way. But you were right. It's time to let go of those fantasies. I took a deep breath and said it. From today, Wayne Shen is officially no longer in love with Lewin. It wasn't a simple outburst of pride. It was a declaration of breaking with my previous destiny. His eyes darkened for a second. I don't know if from anger, surprise, or something else he himself didn't understand. Xin Xing King barely smiled, satisfied. For her, that was victory. She had managed to expose me, ridicule me, and erase in front of everyone any dangerous bond between him and me. The scene ended with Grandpa sighing, with the colleagues murmuring that the girl was crazy in love. My heart ached, but it wasn't the same pain as before. It was a pain mixed with anger and clarity. Then I heard her. I turned. Shang Qing King was there alone, without an audience, without eyes watching her. Her face changed. She was no longer the sweet and polite girl from before. Her gaze turned cold and sharp. "Does it hurt that they laughed at you?" she asked me with a crooked smile. "You did this," I told her bluntly. "And if I did, what are you going to do?" "From the first time I saw you, you rubbed me the wrong way. Every time you were around, Liu Sheng's gaze went to you. Why? I'm his girlfriend. I'm the one who matches him." Her words were like soft poison. "All I did was remind you of your place. You were the niece taken in out of charity. I, the woman who can walk by his side without anyone gossiping." I clenched my fists. "Didn't you think this also ruins him? Exposing him like this? Letting everyone talk?" She shrugged. "What matters is that you understand. If you get close to him again, if you dream of him again, I'll do worse things. I won't let a girl like you become a stain in our story." She stepped closer and whispered, "Either you disappear or I'll destroy you more slowly." In my past life, those words would have destroyed me, left me trembling, crying, begging. In this new life, those words only serve to confirm my decision. I would not fight again for a man who never fought for me, and much less against a woman capable of trampling me like that. That night, I began to pack in secret. I didn't make a scene. I didn't cry in front of anyone. I didn't ask for permission. I just packed my few belongings, a couple of changes of clothes, my books, my notes, and the pieces of my heart. Before I left a very simple note. "Thank you for giving me a home. Thank you for taking care of me when I had no one. From today on, I will follow my own path. I wish you a long and peaceful life." When I went down with my suitcase, the maid looked at me surprised. "Shanhai, where are you going? When will you come back?" "I'm not coming back." I didn't look back. The gate of the Lu house closed behind me. In my past life, that sound would have been the end of everything. In this one, it was a beginning. I thought they would be happy with my departure, that they would be busy with his upcoming wedding, his bright future, the perfect fiancé. In fact, as I was leaving, someone arrived. I heard it just as I was walking away down the street. He's getting married. In my past life, those words were a stab. In this new life, they hurt, but they also finally set me free. I loved him, yes, but for the first time, I also loved myself. I boarded the train to my new city, to the National Defense University, with my heart in pieces, but finally mine. Louis Shen discovered I was gone when there was nothing he could do. "Where is Sheehan?" he asked. "She left. She said she wasn't coming back." Grandpa showed him my letter. Between surprise and contained fury, he asked, "Where did she go?" When he found out I had been accepted at the National Defense University, that I was no longer going to Shinbi Bay, that by my own decision I had distanced myself from him, something inside him broke. Until then, I was the girl who followed him, the grateful orphan, the niece who stayed no matter what he said. But that time, I left without asking for his opinion, without saying goodbye, without giving him a choice. And for the first time, he felt fear. She can't like someone else. She can't fall in love with someone else. He ordered an investigation into where I was, asked for my dorm address, and went to look for me. The campus of the National Defense University was another universe. Green uniforms, steady steps, young people full of hope. I was just another. When they called my full name, Wang Sheng, new student of the weapons system, I felt proud. I was not the rescued girl, not someone's niece. I was me. They assigned me a dorm. I met my roommate, Nu Chini, a brave girl who had escaped from an arranged marriage. And we started talking about dreams, about freedom, about what it meant to choose our own path. For the first time, I felt surrounded by people who had also decided to escape an imposed destiny. And just as I was starting to adapt, he appeared. I saw him from afar at the campus entrance. Impeccable uniform, serious look, breathless as if he had run. Shunguan. My heart leaped, but I didn't run to him. He did walk toward me with a mix of anger, worry, and something else in his eyes, something he himself still didn't understand. "So it's true, you came all the way here without saying a word?" I looked him in the eyes. "I told you many times in letters you never wanted to read." He fell silent. "I'm fine here," I continued. "I have a dorm, I have studies, I have a future. I've grown up. I don't need someone to pick me up and tell me where to stay anymore." He clenched his fists. "Does that mean you want to cut ties with us? With Grandpa? With me?" I swallowed. "I'm grateful for everything, for giving me a roof, food, studies, but the price I paid for loving you in silence was my whole life in the other timeline." I didn't say it like that. Of course, I only thought that part. And just as I was starting to adapt, he appeared. I saw him from afar at the campus entrance. Impeccable uniform, serious look, breathless as if he had run. "Shengguan!" My heart leaped, but I didn't run to him. He did walk toward me with a mix of anger, worry, and something else in his eyes, something he himself still didn't understand. "So it's true. You came all the way here without saying a word?" I looked him in the eyes. "I told you many times in letters you never wanted to read." He fell silent. "I'm fine here," I continued. "I have a dorm, I have studies, I have a future. I've grown up. I don't need someone to pick me up and tell me where to stay anymore. He clenched his fists. Does that mean you want to cut ties with us? With Grandpa? With me? I swallowed. I'm grateful for everything, for giving me a roof, food, studies. But the price I paid for loving you in silence was my whole life in the other timeline. I didn't say it like that, of course. I only thought that part.
Out loud, I replied, I'm grateful, but I'm an adult now. I don't want to live hanging on to you. I don't want to keep being the girl who bothers you. I don't want to keep being your shame. I took a breath. So please, don't look for me again. The last time we saw each other is already over. I saw his eyes fill with something like panic. That was the expression I never saw in my past life. The expression of someone who's about to lose something and knows it. You're no longer the understanding girl from before, he said, almost reproachfully. I smiled sadly. The same question. I also wanted to ask you that once. You're not the little uncle from before either. I turned and left, leaving behind the men I chased to death in another life. That night, in the new King Hui residence, new King Hui looked at me curiously. Hey, the man who came to see you today, he's not just your relative, is he? The way he looked at you, that's not hate. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I don't know, I answered honestly. For many years, he clearly told me he saw me as a burden. When I confessed, he started avoiding me. He made me feel ashamed of my feelings. You confessed? My eyes met hers. They were very wide, impressed. You, to your own uncle? You're brave. I let out a bitter laugh. Brave. Sometimes it seems ridiculous. For years, outside his house, I existed only as the orphan they had to take in. Inside, I was the girl who bothered, the one who made mistakes, the one who was supposed to apologize. She shook her head. That's not your problem. Your mistake wasn't loving, but loving someone who didn't know what to do with that love. Coming here was the right thing. You're where your decisions count. I listened to her, and for the first time, I felt that someone was truly on my side. In my previous life, everything ended in a hospital bed with a broken heart and an exhausted body, waiting for a death no one really tried to prevent. In this life, everything ended on a train heading south, but it also began at a university where, for the first time, my future depends on me. And even though the pain for Lu Sheng was still there, latent, throbbing, there was something new above that pain. Pride. Pride for not having apologized for loving. Pride for having left. Pride for building a life that at last bore my name. They say time heals everything. It's not true. What time does is put layers, study, work, responsibilities, new faces. Underneath all that, some wounds are still there, quiet, waiting for a noise, a name, a look to start bleeding again. And for me, that name was always the same, Luji Chang. 10 years later, from rescued orphan to national scientist, years had passed since that day I crossed the doors of the National Defense University with a small suitcase and a half-broken heart. It wasn't easy. While others dreamed of comfortable offices, I spent entire nights surrounded by formulas, blueprints, simulations, trajectory calculations, and guidance systems. I specialized in weapons and air defense systems. Maybe it sounds cold, but for me, it was simple. If I can't control people anymore, at least I want to control equations. In the lab, I met brilliant people, professors who pushed me to the limit, classmates who fell asleep on the table but didn't give up. Every night I told myself, in my other life, I died in a hospital bed without having done anything truly mine. In this life,
even if I end up alone, I want to leave something concrete in this world. That's how, after university, I entered a classified research institute. The project had a simple, almost poetic name, Hung Sing 1, Red Star 1, an air defense system, a new generation interceptor missile capable of protecting entire skies. It wasn't just technology, it was a silent response to all those who once said our country arrived late. It was a way of saying, maybe we arrived late to some things, but now we're here, and we won't take a step back. I was just another small part in that huge mechanism, but I worked as if everything depended on me. And one day, without realizing it, I was no longer the orphan girl the Liu family took in. I was Wen Xiangen, Deputy Chief Designer of Hong Sing 1. When I saw my name on the internal document for the first time, I had to sit down. I didn't cry, but I felt something I had never truly felt before. Pride. Pure, clean, owing nothing to anyone. The historic day and the surprise in the front row, everything happened very quickly. Wen Tongxi, you've been selected to present Hong Sing at the official press conference. I stared at them as if they were speaking another language. Me, in front of journalists? In front of the world? They nodded. You know the system inside and out, and the country needs a face to represent this new generation. Your generation. The morning of the conference, my heart beat like before the university entrance exam, not for fear of technical failure, but for what it meant. Behind me was the work of people who could never appear on screen. I couldn't let them down. Shen Qingqing, now she was a journalist, elegantly dressed with a microphone in her hand. When Tongxi asked, "It's said that the capabilities you describe were already reached by other countries 5 years ago. Why has our country taken so long to reach them?" It wasn't a technical question, it was an attempt to discredit, to turn the day of our achievements into a reminder that we were slower. Before, in my other life, that question would have made me tremble, but in this one, I was no longer the girl who only knew how to apologize. I smiled slightly. "Thank you for your question," I replied. "It's true that other countries started earlier, but what we've achieved with Hung Sing 1 isn't simply catching up. We've developed a unique combination of active guidance and external imaging. We've optimized the trajectory algorithm to achieve high maneuverability under extreme overload, and we've done it with homegrown talent from scratch." I showed them graphs, simulations, test data. Some may have arrived first. We decided to arrive with something better. There was silence, then applause. For the first time in my life, I wasn't defending my feelings. I was defending my work. And then I saw him in the back of the auditorium, standing in uniform, straight as always, more mature, more serious, more marked by the years.
Lu Yi Cheng. I don't know how long he had been there watching me. I don't know if he heard the whole explanation, half, or just the end. But his gaze told me something very simple. You're not the girl who left. You're a woman the world now has to look up to see. I can take you back. I shook my head. No need. I'm used to going back alone. He clenched his jaw slightly. Shiwan, outside the lab, you're just as stubborn. I laughed softly. And you, Commander Liu? Outside the barracks are just as controlling. For a second, the air between us was filled with everything we hadn't said in 10 years. In the end, he was the one who looked down first. "Congratulations," he said. "What you did today, what you've done all these years is impressive." I should have just said thank you, but the words came out by themselves. "I didn't do it for your praise." Silence. "I know," he admitted. And in that "I know" was more truth than in all his speeches from the past. A heart that comes too late. The truth is, even though my life was filled with work, achievements, and new people, he never truly disappeared.
He was like an old shadow in a freshly painted room. Maybe you don't see it at first, but in the right light, it's there. I heard from others that his military career had been brilliant, that he had commanded important operations, that he was still Grandpa's pride. I also learned he hadn't married. Saint Tintin appeared at events, interviews, photos, but never with the ring on her hand. Someone once told me, "Did you know there was a wedding that never happened?" They say the commander was distracted, seemed to always be waiting for something that never arrived. I didn't ask more. I didn't want to know if that something was me, because if it was, it meant something cruel. Only when I went far away, only when I stopped chasing him, only when I became someone who could live without him, did he realize he wanted me close, and I didn't know what to do with that. A call that again changed the course. The years went on. I worked on more projects, traveled, taught new generations of engineers. I watched missions I helped design take off. I saw artificial stars rise into the sky with our names hidden in their circuits. One day, while reviewing a design, I received a call. "Wing Shenkan, we have a special mission for you." It was a serious, official voice. "Another conference?" I joked. "Something more delicate. It has to do with the safety of one of our senior commanders. There have been threats, suspicious movements, and we believe your presence can calm certain things." My presence? Is it Lu Yiqing? My hand gripped the phone tightly. Turns out, the man I had left so many years ago at the door of a house was now, as always, in the line of fire. Only this time, the danger didn't come from the front, but from within. Politics, power, old enemies, decisions not everyone liked. And for some reason they didn't want to fully explain. They thought seeing me could help him loosen his grip a little, stop carrying everything alone, and accept protection. I almost laughed. So now they want the orphan who left to be the emotional stabilizer of the great commander? But I agreed, not because I owed it to the country. I already gave the country everything every day. I agreed because even if it hurt to admit it, a part of me never stopped wanting to know if he was okay. Second chances or unfinished business. When I saw him again, outside the conference environment and away from the spotlights, he impressed me more than on stage. He wasn't the unreachable man of my teenage memories. He was a tired man, with scars on his soul, with heavy decisions on his shoulders. "You've lost weight," I blurted out without thinking. He looked at me surprised and then barely smiled. "If I knew everything you've done these years, I'd say you've lost more than weight too." That's how we are. When we don't know where to start, we blurt out awkward comments. We talked about work, missiles, responsibilities, numbers of soldiers, fuel quantities, safety margins. For a good while, we avoided talking about the only important thing, us. In the end, he was the one who brought it up. "Sometimes I think," he said, looking at the horizon, "that if that day I hadn't let you walk alone to the exam, if I had run after you, if I had ignored what everyone was saying, now everything would be different." "Sometimes I think," I replied, "that if I hadn't begged to be loved, if I had learned to love myself sooner, I wouldn't have ended up in a hospital bed in my other life either." He looked at me confused by my words. Of course, he didn't know anything about timelines, about second chances, about past lives. He only knew that in front of him was a woman who no longer trembled when she looked at him, who no longer settled for crumbs. "Shiwan," he whispered, "it's too late." I swallowed. There were many ways to answer that. I could have said yes to protect myself. I could have said no to fall back into his arms thoughtlessly. But I remembered something.
I didn't come back to save our past. I came back not to lose myself again.
In short, I stopped being the girl who begged for love and became a woman who builds missiles. I left the Lou house as a burden and came back as deputy chief designer. He went his way, I went mine. And yet fate brought us again to the same coordinates. Does that mean we're destined for each other? I don't know. The only thing I know is this. In my first life, the only thing I had was my love for him. In this life, the first thing I have is myself. If he decides to love me now, it will be this whole strong version, scarred but standing. So I told the truth. I don't know. He opened his mouth, but I stopped him with my hand. What I do know is that I'm no longer the girl waiting at the Lou house gate, hoping you'll deign to look back at me. If you want to be in my life now, you'll have to learn to walk by my side. Not ahead, not behind, but by my side. For the first time, it wasn't a plea, it was a condition. And in his eyes, I saw something I had never seen before. Not just love, but respect. Thanks for listening to my story. Remember to subscribe. Bye.